For Qin, the root of the trouble, severe devil nature. Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 85 based on novel. So let's start. When monk Mingshin came to Eternal Peace Empire, he could still see clouds in the sky. The influence of the snow disaster had yet to fade, and soldiers continued to send disaster relief everywhere. The victims were still escaping for their lives while many bandits were plundering houses. Starving people were fleeing all over the place, unable to find any way to get by. There's a white and tender monk here. The starving people were delighted when they saw monk Mingshin. We can eat him without washing. He immediately ran away. The starving people, who've been lacking food for quite a long time, could only give up since they couldn't catch up to him. One of them said, "I told you not to make a noise. When he was close, we could have just pounced on him and taken a bite. This way, that white and tender monk wouldn't have been able to run away." Monk Mingshin's heart was alarmed, and he trembled in fear. After starving for 2-3 days, he still couldn't find anything to fill his stomach, yet he had been chased over a dozen times by other starving people. Great Thunderclap Monastery was serene, but the outside world was vicious, with famine everywhere. Such things were not written about in the Buddhist scriptures, since only when one was full and warm could they think about Buddhist scriptures. The Heart Sutra that he had brought along was also useless. It couldn't solve his problem of having no food. His current whereabouts were slightly farther away from civilization, so it was too far for the imperial court to help. There were many victims of the disaster and starving people, as well as many corpses of those who had died strewn across the roadside. There were also wild wolves and dogs, which had become demons by eating human corpses. They formed packs and went around hunting those that were still alive. Dogs were normally tame, but when a disaster came, they did not scoff at human flesh. They reproduced fast, and were even fiercer than wolves. This is hell. Monk Mingshin shed tears when he saw demons and corpses everywhere. "Monk, do you have a child?" A thin victim with a pale face grabbed onto his clothes while holding in her embrace a child. Her face was pale and bony, starved. "Give your child to me. I'll give mine to you. You can eat my child and I'll eat yours." Monk Mingshin screamed and broke free to escape. Rulai. Monk Mingshin ran countless miles until he could no longer run. He then knelt down onto the floor and shouted sorrowfully, "Are you not seeing this human world in Great Thunderclap Monastery?" He walked forward muddlehead, stumbling with every other step. When he saw a monastery in front of him, he went inside and saw a couple of humans hanging from the roof. They were stripped of their skin from head to toe, and there were some monks that were squatting in the corner, holding a metal basin with meat. When they saw him, they immediately said in astonishment, "Abbot, Abbot, there's a monk that's been left on his own." The old abbot came out in a hurry. "Where are you from, monk? There aren't a lot of rations left here, and even the land has been gnawed a few times by the starving people. Yuan Ding, give him a bowl of food and let him leave." My Buddha of compassion. A basin of human flesh was placed in front of monk Mingshin, stunning him. And he felt the Buddha in his mind crumble and collapse. He jumped up and frantically smashed the Buddha statue nearby, pushing it down and smashing it into smithereens. The other monks came over in a hurry to stop him and said angrily, "This monk is crazy, he's been possessed by the devil. To blaspheme against Buddha, to deceive and destroy the ancestors." Monk Mingshin let them beat him and didn't retaliate. Soon, he turned into a bloody mess. At that moment, a group of officers with men arrived and slew the monks in the monastery. The monks were eating human flesh. They are really becoming lawless. "General, there's still a monk here who doesn't look human anymore from all the beatings. There's still breathing." The soldiers brought Monk Mingshin for the general to take a look. "He won't die." "Monk, I see you have the ability. Why didn't you retaliate when they beat you?" Monk Mingshin said with a stupefied expression, "I have flaws all over me." The general smiled. "It's good to have flaws. Who doesn't have them? Only experts know that they have flaws. You have some ability, so follow me to protect the land." These immigrants even gnaw on the land to dig out the grains that were just planted. Come people, burn this monastery down. The soldiers came forward to set fire, and soon the monastery started burning. Monk Mingshin nodded, but then he remembered something. He immediately ran toward the fire. My scripture. The general ordered his men to hold him back. What scripture do you have? How thick is it? Only 2 pages. Such a cold weather, yet such a thin scripture can't even be used for a fire. The general raised a single finger, and sorrow could be seen in his eyes. We just need to have 1 season of harvest, and all the people in the world will have things to eat, and no longer starve. This world will become human world once more and not hell. Therefore, protecting the land is of utmost importance. We can't let the immigrants ruin it. When the world is peaceful once more, you can go and read your Buddhist scriptures. When that time comes, I'll give you bucket loads of them myself, so you can read whichever you want. Monk Mingshin was stunned. Only read scriptures in times of peace. Then how could they save those that were suffering? How could they enlighten all living things? If they could not be used during times of chaos, able only to save people from suffering during times of peace, what use did they have? Cult Master Qin is right. Those that write Buddhist scriptures are not really roulés. When Monk Mingshin left with the officers and their men, his plain cotton clothing and grass shoes that were once white were covered in bloodstains. From today onwards, I'll be my own roulé. I'll write my own Buddhist scriptures. In Great Thunderclap Monastery, the bell's ring was long and drawn out, and Qin Mu looked toward the west. There he saw great ruins, which had been through a grave disaster. He then looked toward the east, and there lay Eternal Peace Empire, which was experiencing a snow disaster. Great Thunderclap Monastery was right in the middle of both of them, not receiving any disaster or calamity. It was indeed a good place. The monks on the mountain had no worries and only needed to concentrate on studying Buddhism, without being mindful of the disasters outside. Great Thunderclap Monastery has over 4,000 cloisters, Heavenly Dragon Cloister, and Heart Meditation Cloister being the more high-end cloisters. Every cloister is responsible for different things, and what they comprehend is different. If there are any outstanding disciples, they will be taught by the old monks, so they won't need to move around from cloister to cloister, Old Ma explained. For example, let's take that monk Mingshin. He was specially taught by monk Jingming, so he had a teacher to guide him and was more outstanding among the other monks. Those with the highest comprehension and Buddha nature, meanwhile, are taught personally by Rulai. Qin Mu looked down and saw the mountain's peaks were like petals of a lotus, surrounding the main golden peak, which was in the center. There were tens of thousands of temples and monasteries with incense burning in front of them. Great Thunderclap Monastery does have its good points. It has quite a similarity with Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor on the teaching of disciples, Qin Mu said while nodding. Old Ma brought them around the mountain to visit the wonders there. At this moment, he led them toward an awe-inspiring pagoda. Heaven's cloisters. First heaven is Yamaraja Cloister. The second heaven is Sogara Nogaraja Cloister, which represents a state of mind in Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. If you went to the topmost realm, there would be Sakra Cloister and Brahma Cloister there. If you were to count from that top, Brahma Cloister would be the first heaven. Qin Mu raised his head and was shaken. This pagoda was way too majestic. It was a magnificent sight, with an air about it of truly standing above mountains and rivers. They walked into the pagoda and came to the first cloister, Yamaraja Cloister, where they saw a few young monks were cultivating Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. An old monk immediately came forward and said, Ma Wangshan. We just want to walk around here. The old monk had a troubled expression when he said, This is where we cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Suddenly, another voice spoke up. Senior brother, our Buddha said that there's nothing to hide in Great Thunderclap Monastery, we can let them go anywhere. The old monk looked over and immediately said, Fozi. A young monk walked in and greeted old Ma, senior brother. He then also greeted Qin Mu, cult master Qin. Qin Mu returned the greeting and smiled. So it's Fozi Fushin. I saw you outside Imperial College once, but we've never met me before. This monk had a clean round head and gave off a feeling of something precious. His eyes were bright like jewels and his earlobes were like droplets of water. A red mark was drawn at the heart of his brows, which was very extraordinary. He was none other than Fozi Fuxin. Fozi Fuxin had once followed old monk Jingming to block the gate of Imperial College, and Qin Mu had went to take a look. Because the young patriarch didn't give him any benefits, and Qin Mu still had to paralyze the green bull, they didn't exchange blows. When Imperial Physician Yu and the rest had paralyzed Imperial College, Cai Yunxiang had sneaked out to fight, and forced Fozi Fuxin to retreat after being defeated. Fozi Fuxin sized up Qin Mu and saw that even though this heavenly devil cult master looked like a gentleman that was polite, cultured, and refined, he had a very invasive gaze. He could feel a wild and unruly bearing bursting forth from his gaze, stabbing into the inner hearts of others. This made his heart leap up uncontrollably. The devil nature of this person is quite serious. Fuxin said to the old monk. Rulai said that there's no problem even if we show cult master Qin Rulai's Mahayana Sutta. Without Buddha nature, there's absolutely no way to cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra of our great Thunderclap Monastery. What's more, senior brother Ma also used Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, so if he wanted to teach cult master Qin, he would have done so a long time ago. Two benefactors and senior brother Ma, please study to your heart's content. The old monk calmed down and started explaining to the little monks the marvel of the first heaven, Yamaraja heaven. He no longer had any qualms about Qin Mu and the rest being here. After a moment, Qin Mu comprehended something and used what he just heard about Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. He felt cold and warmth in his body, as if he had descended into hell and become Yamaraja. Fuxin saw precious rays suddenly coming out from the youth's body, and his heart jumped slightly. Those are Buddha rays. He had comprehended the first heaven of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, just by standing here. Could he have a Buddha nature? Isn't he a devil? Old Ma also saw the Buddha rays that had suddenly burst forth from his body and said, Mua, you have already achieved the first heaven of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, so there's no need to listen here anymore. Let us head to the next level. Qin Mu followed Old Ma and blind to Sogura Nogaraja cloister, and Fozi Fuxin hurried after them. There was also an old monk here talking about all kinds of marvels of Sogura Nogaraja heaven. Not long later, Fozi Fuxin saw the Buddha rays on Qin Mu's body becoming stronger. He was greatly shaken. It was impossible for people with devil nature to cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Qin Mu was the heavenly devil cult master, a devil among devils, but he could actually cultivate to the second heaven of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, just by standing and listening for a while. Wasn't that just too shocking? One has to know that the reason Fuxin was called Fozi was because he had a pure and limpid heart of a newborn. Back when he had first come to this place, he had also managed to cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra to the fourth heaven in a short time, shaking Great Thunderclap Monastery. He was then honored with the name of Fozi. From what he heard, it had been the same for Ma Wangshan as well. Fuxin had heard about his legend, and it was rumored that Ma Wangshan had managed to cultivate to the fifth heaven in one shot. Due to this, old Rulai had had extremely high expectations for him, grooming him to become his replacement. The devil of heavenly devil cult can't have as great a Buddha nature as me. Fuxin thought to himself. When they came to the third heaven, Qin Mu comprehended the mental state of Kandra from Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, cultivating Kandra heaven. Buddha rays appeared behind his head, and they were splendid as moonlight. Yet there were not many monks who had cultivated to this heaven in the whole Kandra cloister. When in the fourth heaven, Qin Mu comprehended the mental state of Suya, and Buddha rays shone from the back of his head like a blazing sun. He was like an eminent monk who had achieved his Tao. Fuxin drew in a shaky breath. He had also broken through four heavens one after another, cultivating to the mental state of Suya. When he reached Marichi cloister, he couldn't cultivate it right away, yet even so, it was enough for him to be called Fozi. Didn't this mean that Qin Mu also had the Buddha heart, and was no inferior to him? If Qin Mu continued forward and broke through the mental state of Marichi heaven, wouldn't it meant that this devil's Buddha heart was even stronger than Fuxin's own? How could a devil have a greater Buddha nature than someone who cultivates Buddhism? After coming to Marichi cloister, Qin Mu listened to the scripture, and not long later, flames of light came from his body. Fuxin's mind was blown, and he became muddlehead. Qin Mu, this devil, actually managed to cultivate to the fifth heaven in one go, which was the same aptitude as Ma Wangshan's, the same kind of Buddha heart. How was that possible? He was a devil. He was clearly a devil, so it should have been impossible for him to cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Fozi Fuxin composed himself. He was the monk with the highest aptitude and comprehension in the last 100 years, and had the best Buddha heart, so he had never expected to be surpassed by a devil. Everyone came to Hariti cloister, and Qin Mu was finally got stuck. He didn't manage to cultivate the sixth heaven of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Fuxin was dazed. Qin Mu had cultivated 5 heavens in one go, which was already the aptitude for becoming Rulai. If he converted to Buddhism, Master would most likely choose him as the next Rulai. Fuxin started to worry about his personal gains and losses. I can't let him become Rulai's disciple, the next Rulai can only be me. Once this thought was born, it could not be stopped. Fozi, I've heard that Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor came here once. How many heavens did he cultivate? Qin Mu suddenly asked. Fozi Fuxin composed himself and said, Imperial Preceptors coming here is something that happened 100 or 2 years ago. I've heard from seniors in the monastery that Rulai had followed him then, an Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had comprehended 7 heavens in a short while. Qin Mu jumped in shock and shook his head. As expected of the genius that appears once every 500 years, I can't compete with him. Old Ma was also astonished. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor actually managed to comprehend 7 heavens in one go. Remarkable, if he entered Buddhism, he would have become Rulai, if he entered a Tao sect, he would have become a Tao master, and if he had entered your heavenly saint cult, he would have become the sacred cult master. Such a talent, there is no one who can compare with that. Blind also exclaimed in admiration, Cripple was not treated unjustly by having his leg chopped off by him. Old Ma and Blind brought them through all levels of the 20 Heavens Pagoda, and 2-3 days passed without them noticing it. Qin Mu had listened to all 20 heavens of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra once, and had exclaimed in admiration at the exquisiteness of it all. They were no inferior to great educational heavenly devil scriptures. He had no intention of cultivating Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, but he could use other people's knowledge to improve himself. Rulai's Mahayana Sutra was worthy for him to use as a reference. Fuxin looked at Qin Mu, and his gaze flickered. Cult Master Qin's aptitude isn't bad as well. Cult Master, since our great Thunderclap Monastery has shown our Rulai's Mahayana Sutra to you, I wonder if little monk can browse your great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Qin Mu took out a ball of thread from his Daotai sack, and said generously, What harm is there? Anyone in our cult can learn great educational heavenly devil scriptures, so there's no problem even if it was taught to outsiders. He pulled onto the head of the thread, giving it a gentle pull. Instantly, countless words swarmed out and rolled into the sky. Qin Mu didn't hide anything, and just showed the entire great educational heavenly devil scriptures in front of Fuxin. When Fuxin saw the first sentence of great educational heavenly devil scriptures, his expression changed. He felt the ideals before him clashing with Buddhism's ideals. As he looked over and saw the 7 writings of creation, he couldn't help frowning. This is truly the technique of a devil cult, there's no compassion in it at all. All its teaching is evil skills. Cult master, put it away, this little monk can't look at this. Qin Mu was bewildered, but did as asked and retrieved great educational heavenly devil scriptures, which were still a ball of thread. At this moment, a monk suddenly hurried over and spoke in a low voice to Fuxin. The message astonished its recipient, and he saluted the group while remaining calm and collected. 3 benefactors, it's already late, so may the 3 of you return back to your rooms to rest. Blind yawned and said, We're guests, so we shall comply with whatever's convenient for the host. Mua, Old Ma, let's return to our rooms to rest. The 3 of them walked out of the pagoda, and Blind suddenly said, Just now, the monk told Fuxin that the Crown Prince of Eternal Peace Empire came to request an audience with old Rulai. Qin Mu was stunned. Eternal Peace Empire's Crown Prince. What was he doing by coming to Great Thunderclap Monastery at this time? What scheme was he playing by requesting an audience with old Rulai? Blind's ears twitched, and he said, "For Qin had the monk lead Eternal Peace Crown Prince to Hall of Great Strength, while he went to Thousand Buddha's Pagoda himself to inform Rulai. He entered Thousand Buddha's Pagoda, but I can't see or hear what's happening inside it. Rulai has come out and told the monks around to do their best to chant the incantations, suppressing Li Qianxing." Old Ma's expression changed slightly, and he said in a hurry, "How could the Buddhist skills of those monks suppress Li Qianxing? Rulai is careless, the 1,000 Buddhas in the pagoda are dead, so even if their energy can be excited by the incantations of the monks, it won't be enough to suppress Li Qianxing. Quick, to 1,000 Buddha's pagoda so that Li Qianxing won't escape." The three of them immediately hurried towards the Golden Peak, but Qin Mu was much slower than the others. When he passed by his room, he saw the dragon Qilin still lying asleep, and the old monk beside him still reciting scriptures for him. "Fatty dragon!" Qin Mu hurriedly shouted out, and the dragon Qilin woke up and ran over, leaving the old monk behind. That old monk shouted out angrily, "Brute, no wisdom at all." Qin Mu jumped onto the dragon Qilin's back and said, "Head to the Golden Peak at your fastest speed. But Cult Master, you haven't given me anything to eat these days. Head to the Golden Peak as fast as you can, and I'll give you 2 buckets. Qin Mai immediately told him. The dragon Qilin was instantly motivated and dashed toward the Golden Peak in a frantic rush. Inside the 1,000 Buddha's pagoda, there were corporeal bodies of the previous Rulai, while outside there were monks sitting on the roof as well as by the windows and door. They chanted Buddhist incantations to excite the corporeal bodies of old Rulai. Through those corporeal bodies, the incantations transformed into texts with forms which were like huge dragons that flew to and fro, surging into the heart of Granny Sai's brows to suppress and refine her heart devil, Li Qianxing. These last couple days, old Rulai had personally led all the monks in using the Buddha nature hidden in the corporeal bodies to suppress and refine Li Qianxing. The effects could already be seen by how Granny Sai was waking up more and more frequently due to Li Qianxing's primordial spirit having been weakened by a lot. This was why old Rulai had been at ease to leave, handing the task over to the monks. After all, there were so many corporeal bodies of the previous Rulai to keep watch. Yet at this moment, Granny Sai's pupils became incomparably dark, and she chuckled. A voice that was brimming with seductiveness came from the pagoda, and it was like a lover whispering sweet nothings beside one's ears. That voice tunneled into the monks' ears, into their hearts, and instantly, all the monks' Buddha hearts were thrown into chaos as devils were born within them. "Hold on," an old monk shouted out sternly. "Don't listen to her voice." Just as he said these words, a beautiful face popped out from the pagoda and smiled sweetly at him. A devil was born in that old monk's Buddha heart, and the wheel of Buddha rays behind his head dimmed. He then fell from the pagoda. "This is bad." Another old monk chanted out the many names of Buddha before raising his 2 fingers to stab his eyes, planning not to see Granny Sai's appearance. With resolution, he dug out both of his eyes, but then gentle laughter reached his ears, tunneling into his Buddha's heart and making it itch. That old monk gritted his teeth and stabbed his ears, piercing his eardrums so he couldn't hear her voice. The old monk's head was covered in blood as he loudly chanted Buddhist scriptures, exciting the corporeal bodies of the previous Rulai that were in the pagoda. Since he couldn't see and hear, he wasn't aware of the monks falling off from the pagoda and crashing loudly against the floor. Suddenly, he felt a soft and slender lily-white hand that had the perfect temperature caressing his face and his bald head. The body of the old monk trembled, and the Buddha rays behind his head suddenly dispersed. He fell from 1,000 Buddha's pagoda as well. Qin Mu pushed the dragon Qilin to rush to the Golden Peak only to see all the monks falling off and crashing into the ground. Old Ma and Blind broke through to chase after Granny Sai, who had already escaped the suppression of 1,000 Buddha's pagoda. The speed of the 3 of them was extremely fast, and they disappeared in a flash. Even the dragon Qilin could only watch the dash behind them, having no way to catch up. Qin Mu was stunned. "You guys." The Golden Peak was in a mess, and Old Ma and Blind had both rushed away, leaving him to sit by himself on the back of the dragon Qilin. The youth was stunned for a moment, then said resentfully, I wonder if Great Thunderclap Monastery will be willing to let me, this heavenly devil cult master, go. It's not a good feeling to be in the enemy's camp without any elder to support you. Just as old Rulai sat down in the Hall of Great Strength, thinking to chat with Eternal Peace Crown Prince, a monk came rushing in to report, revered one of the world, Li Qianxing has escaped. Stunned, old Rulai shook his head. I've underestimated him. I thought that as an upright devil cult master, he would find it disdainful to learn the art of charm, never would have I expected that he would still have tricks up his sleeves. Since I can't suppress and refine him, let Heavenly Devil Cult Master leave the mountain. Eternal Peace Crown Prince was astonished. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is in Great Thunderclap Monastery. Is he the palace grandee of my imperial court? Old Rulai nodded in agreement. It's him. Eternal Peace Crown Prince was delighted. Buddha, this person is Heavenly Devil Cult Master, one who did much evil, so he can't be let off. Why don't we just rid this world of that evil on this mountain? Old Rulai shook his head. He had a favor to ask from me by coming up the mountain, so I had him stay. However, since I couldn't do what he requested, I will have to allow him to leave the mountain. Our Great Thunderclap Monastery cannot act like a devil. Eternal Peace Crown Prince still wanted to say more, but Fozi Fushin got up and said, Revered one of the world, I shall send Cult Master Qin down the mountain. Old Rulai nodded and looked towards Eternal Peace Crown Prince. Crown Prince, this old monk knows your intentions for coming and also knows what you are planning. It's because this concerns all living things under this world that this old monk had come over in a hurry, and let Li Qianxing take advantage of this. You should have met Teacher Po and the rest, right? Eternal Peace Crown Prince nodded. They can't handle my father, so we earnestly request Buddha to lend a hand. Old Rulai smiled. His Majesty's 9 Dragons monarch technique has already been cultivated to its maximum, so there are indeed not many people who can handle His Majesty, but this old monk is one. At this moment, Fozi Fushin came to find Qin Mu. Cult Master Qin, revered one of the world, ordered me to send you down the mountain. Thanks for the trouble, Fozi. Qin Mu expressed his thanks. Since Fozi Fushin followed him, he didn't ride the dragon Chileen, but had jumped off to walk with him. This was courtesy. The sky is already dark, we should have let Cult Master remain here for another night. The two people walked down the mountain without hurry. Even though their footsteps weren't fast, they were still 10 times faster than ordinary people. Fushin said, even though Cult Master Qin only spent a little time in Great Thunderclap Monastery, you have created quite a mess. There are some monks that have lost their lives while others return to their normal lives, but even so, Rulai still lets Cult Master leave the mountain. Qin Mu smiled. Rulai has a wide breadth of mind which I admire very much, as expected of the number 1 awakened of Buddhism. Rulai had abandoned sectarian bias and was willing to save Granny Sai, for which I'm very grateful to him. Fushin smiled back at him. Cult Master, I would like to take another look at Great Educational Heavenly Devil Scripture, is that possible? Qin Mu took out Great Educational Heavenly Devil Scriptures and opened them up, revealing countless passages of text. Fozi Fushin browsed through them as he walked and shook his head. Truly harmful skills. Every divine art and every technique teaches how to take the lives of others, and even the methods of cultivation are very evil. Qin Mu was astonished. Fozi, why do you say that? Look at this heavenly devil creation technique, which strips skins to make them into clothes. The souls, spirits, chi, and blood all have to be sealed in order to make clothes that can be constantly changing. Isn't this an evil skill? Qin Mu smiled. Heavenly devil creation technique mainly cultivates the inner body. Using this technique to seal your own soul, spirit, chi, and blood can prevent outside magic from invading you. It isn't to strip skin and make clothes. If one wanted to transform, they could do it by matching heavenly god creation technique with spirit creation technique. Fushin shook his head. Cult Master, you are the one who has comprehended wrongly. Who hasn't heard about the evils of heavenly devil technique? You are still young, so how much could you have read? It's thus normal that you have comprehended wrongly. Take a look at this pre-celestial creation technique. This is clearly a devil technique that can only be cultivated by plucking the pre-celestial qi of a newborn child. Those who cultivate this technique will never age, but how many newborn babies must be harmed for that? Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he corrected him, the monk. The so-called pre-celestial qi isn't referring to infants, but to the state of infants. Before an infant is born, they are in pre-celestial state, the beginning of yin and yang, preserving their origin. A placenta connects pre-celestial to the mother, so there's no need to breathe, thus their souls are pure and flawless. Fozi, you have understood wrongly, there's no need to eat the placenta, or the infant to cultivate this technique. Instead, you have to treat yourself like an infant. Fuxin shook his head. Cult master, you are still going to deny it. Isn't this earth eon creation technique a devil technique used for gathering devil flames from the sun and earth to refine all living things? The more people are refined to death, the more damned souls there will be, and the greater power the skill will have. In the end, the devil flames will turn into hell, all for the eon of earth. Qin Mu smiled. This technique has the word creation, so it's used to cultivate spirit, to strengthen one's primordial spirit. Using other people's souls to strengthen one's primordial spirit, how's that not a devil technique? Fuxin asked. Qin Mu shook his head and said, this technique can be combined with pre-celestial creation technique, preserving the origin of one's heart and spirit, turning oneself into an infant state, and connecting oneself to the earth. By plucking the qi of Mother Earth, one can strengthen their primordial spirit, as well as create all living things. Fozi, I have been cultivating great educational heavenly devil scriptures these few days, and my spirit embryo is abnormally strong. The effects of these two techniques are not small. You can also cultivate them. Fuxin smiled. I won't cultivate, I just want to criticize. Qin Mu took a deep look at him. Fuxin looked magnanimous and didn't seem to be lying, so Qin Mu smiled at him. In that case, Fozi may continue. Fuxin continued to browse as they walked away from Great Thunderclap Monastery. Your heavenly devil cult is worthy of the devil word. The devil nature in its teachings is too heavy. These techniques, skills, and divine arts are both shocking and frightful. This technique that's called sending funeral technique. If one wants to cultivate it, are they going to exterminate an entire family? Qin Mu shook his head. This technique is actually the technique of our heavenly saint cult's funeral hall, and what they cultivate are paper humans and paper horses. They help people arrange funerals, drive away ghosts, and bring good fortune to their descendants. Fozi, if you're going to look at the scriptures with prejudice, there's no need for you to browse anymore. I'm afraid your Buddha's heart will be spoiled. Fuxin laughed. Cult Master Qin, my Great Thunderclap Monastery has already shown you Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, and you don't want me to read great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Qin Mu smiled slightly. All right then, as you wish. The two of them continued down the mountain, and the more Fuxin read, the more he shook his head. When they reached the bottom of the mountain, it was already the dead of the night. Bu this time, he had managed to read more than half of great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Qin Mu looked around. In front of him was Eternal Peace Empire. If he had gone down the other side of the mountain, they would have faced great ruins, but since it was shrouded by darkness at this time, it couldn't be stepped into. The New Year's was already over, and it was the second month of the year. In the sky, the stars were sparse, but the moon was shining brightly. It was a crescent that gave off a serene light that was brighter than usual. This was near Great Thunderclap Monastery, so the dark clouds above had been long removed by the eminent monks. Because of that, the sky was especially clear. There were some villages nearby that believed in Buddhism and worshipped Buddha. However, the land around here belonged to Great Thunderclap Monastery, so all the people around were farmers. They didn't have to pay rent to the imperial court, but send offerings to Great Thunderclap Monastery for using the land to produce crops. Qin Mu wanted to return to eternal peace. The first reason for that was to continue cultivating, while the second was to manage Heavenly Saint cult. Li Qianxing had also run in the direction of Eternal Peace Empire, when he had broken free from Thousand Buddha's pagoda. Fuxin was still reading great educational heavenly devil scriptures when the two of them came to the mountain gate. The monk guarding the gate was sitting with a lantern while an Elephur strange beast was sleeping next to him. There were also some retainers nearby, who got up the moment they saw them. Fozi Fuxin went up to inquire about their origin, and one of them answered, "We are the retainers of the crown prince. Since we're all ordinary people, we can't enter the monastery, and have to stay outside to wait. I'm sending the devil cult master down the mountain, so I don't have the time to entertain everyone. I beg your pardon." Fuxin called the Elephur over, and led this strange beast over. "Cult Master Qin, I'll need another hour to finish reading. If Cult Master doesn't mind, I would like to continue to send you off. The Elephur of my great Thunderclap Monastery listens to Dharma all year round, and has a profound cultivation, so it can definitely match up to your dragon Qilin." Qin Mu revealed a smile. "It's best this way." The Elephur and the dragon Qilin moved at the same pace, while Buddha rays appeared behind Fuxin's head to shine onto great educational heavenly devil scriptures for him to continue studying it. Devil Cult Master. The eyes of the retainers of the Crown Prince lighted up, and they asked, "Which Devil Cult Master?" The monk who was guarding the mountain gate said, "Which one could it be?" "That is Cult Master Qin of Heavenly Devil Cult. He came with a tumultuous momentum, and bewitched many of the monks in the monastery to return to normal lives. During these couple of days, there were monks continuously leaving the mountain to return to normal lives, some of them being my senior uncles." The retainers looked at one another and smiled. "We can find our merit here. Heavenly Devil Cult killed Sun Nantuor and eradicated Nantuor Monastery, and we actually managed to meet him here of all places. Let's go and get our merit. Good men, don't do evil and kill people, don't harm Fozi," the gate monk said in a panic. The retainers of the Crown Prince smiled. "Don't worry." Qin Mu sat on the back of the dragon Qilin, and kept looking up at the moon in the sky, bobbing up and down as the dragon Qilin moved. Now was the 8th day of the 2nd month, and the crescent was very curved. Soon, Fuxin let out a breath of relief and returned great educational heavenly devil scriptures to Qin Mu. "Little monk has finally finished reading, those scriptures are truly a devil classic. Why does Cult Master Qin keeps looking at the moon in the sky? There's no moon in Great Ruins." Qin Mu retracted his gaze and gently touched great educational heavenly devil scriptures. They turned into a ball of thread, and he smiled. "Thus, every time I see the moon, I find it very beautiful and captivating. Furthermore, I want to see the boundary of Great Thunderclap Monastery." Fuxin was slightly stunned and asked curiously, "The boundary of Great Thunderclap Monastery?" Qin Mu nodded. When he saw the moon being blocked by the dark clouds in the sky, he leaped off the back of the dragon Qilin. Half of the place where he had landed was lit up by the moon while the other half was in the darkness left by the dark clouds. "The boundary of Great Thunderclap Monastery should be around here. Please take a look, Fozi." The eminent monks of Great Thunderclap Monastery removed all the dark clouds in their territory. So the dark clouds here belong to Eternal Peace Empire, and have nothing to do with Great Thunderclap Monastery. Fuxin also jumped down from the Elephur, and raised his head to look at the sky before looking at the ground. He said in astonishment, "I never knew Great Thunderclap Monastery had a boundary. In this case, there should be a boundary stone nearby." Qin Mu's interest was spiked and he smiled. "Why don't we find it?" Fuxin seemed to also have the temperament of a youth, and the two young men started to search around. After some time, they found a broken cliff which was a mountain peak. Only half of the 30 yards tall mountain peak was left, and on it, a few words were written. They said, "Great Thunderclap Monastery Boundary." Fuxin clapped his hands together and laughed. "There's really such a boundary stone. Even though I'm a monk of Great Thunderclap Monastery, I've never heard seniors mentioning this before. Cult Master Qin, I've heard that Heavenly Devil Cult doesn't cultivate the heart, and doesn't have much requirements regarding the frame of mind. The techniques of your Heavenly Devil Cult are fast to cultivate, but because you guys cultivate techniques, and not the heart, you're easily possessed by the devil." While standing under this boundary stone, Qin Mu raised his head to examine the handwriting. "There's such a saying. Fuxin's gaze flickered, and he said, Buddhism techniques cultivate the heart. So if we added the fast cultivation of great educational heavenly devil scriptures, wouldn't it be perfect? Qin Mu was still examining the words on the boundary stone, so he said absent-mindedly, this I do not know. Fuxin looked at his back at Qin Mu's back, while he looked at the boundary stone in front. Neither of them spoke another word. Suddenly, Buddha rays shone brilliantly, and a thick devil chi emanated. Under the boundary stone, the world was split by the Buddha and devil, one righteous, and one evil clashed with a bang. Qin Mu turned around, and the Buddha rays behind his head shone brightly. He was like a huge yellow-robed Buddha, whose every raise of the arms and every lift of the feet would result in thunder. What he executed was Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Meanwhile, Fuxin emanated the sinister devil chi as devil flames blazed around his body. What he executed was Earth Eon creation technique. The two of them suddenly clashed under the boundary stone without saying a word. Qin Mu's vital chi created clouds above his head. Within them, 5 heavens with 10,000 Buddhas could be seen faintly. In the meantime, the devil chi around Fuxin raged, and the devil flames burned more and more furiously. The two of them leaped up like rabbits, and soared down like falcons under the boundary stone of Great Thunderclap Monastery. But suddenly, a loud bang rang out as Fuxin grunted and moved a step back. Qin Mu took a step forward and struck with palm after palm, his every hit as heavy as the boundary stone of Great Thunderclap Monastery. Fuxin moved back continuously, fresh blood flowing from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Boom! Qin Mu smashed another palm down, and he was like a huge Buddha striking with colorless karma fire. Fuxin raised his hand to receive the blow, and the sound of bone cracking could be heard. He then moved back and felt his back leaning against the boundary stone, making his heart sink. Boom! Qin Mu struck again, and Fuxin gave another grunt as he crumbled and sat down under the boundary stone. He raised his hand and said, Enough, I admit defeat. Qin Mu raised his fist and smashed down with fist after fist. After a moment, he stood up, while Fuxin was left a bloody mess. Your devil nature is severe. I'm going to leave you alive to see how you'll ruin Great Thunderclap Monastery in the future. Qin Mu pulled back his fists, his fingertips dripping with blood. Looking at Fuxin, who was beyond recognition, he said softly, You misinterpret every technique you see in great educational heavenly devil scriptures, and you're more like the devil than the devil. If I leave you alive, Great Thunderclap Monastery will definitely be destroyed in your hands. Fuxin still had breath and wanted to say something, but a sword light struck him at that moment. It pierced through the heart of his brows, and the flying sword penetrated his skull, nailing him to the boundary stone. As he died, he could hear a voice shouting in delight. The devil cult master is finally dead. The devil nature of this wretch is so heavy. Fozi is still too kind-hearted and didn't land the fatal blow. Someone else laughed. In the end, we are still the ones who got to finish him. Sever his head and collect the reward from the Crown Prince. This video will end here.